Step into the world of Tomes of Transcendence, where each chapter unfolds with the grace and wisdom of StoryWave.ai. We welcome your support through likes, shares, and subscriptions for more enchanting stories. Chapter 1: Echoes of Ignorance. In the secluded reaches of a verdant valley, cradled by the whispering arms of ancient trees, there lay a monastery of weathered stone and contemplation. It was a place where silence held dominion, save for the chatter of leaves and the distant, ever-present chorus of cicadas. The air hung heavy with the scent of incense and pine, and the wind carried the faintest echo of mantras, woven into a conglomerate of serenity. Arin Jin, known affectionately as Sparrow for his slight frame and restless nature, moved through this cloistered world with an air of youthful arrogance. His agile form was a silhouette against the sunrise as he swept the stone pathways, his movements brisk, lacking the reverence his task deserved. His gaze often wandered to the fluttering wings and scurrying creatures that shared his home, viewing them with a scorn that belied his station as a monk apprentice. Master Laozu, whose presence was as unyielding as the ancient oaks, watched Arin with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of countless seasons. His voice, when he spoke, was the rumble of distant thunder, yet it cut through the morning's tranquility with ease. "Sparrow," he began, his tone a gentle reprimand. "The life that teems beneath our feet is as sacred as the one that courses through our veins. To hold one above the other is to walk a path shadowed by ignorance." Arin, his hand pausing mid-sweep, turned to regard the master monk. A frown creased his brow, the words an unwelcome intrusion upon his thoughts. "But master, these creatures are but insects, small and insignificant. How can their existence compare to ours?" Laozu's white hair, a striking opposition against his seasoned skin, caught the light of the dawning day as he approached his apprentice. The size of one's form does not dictate the value of one's life. Each being plays its part in the grand design, and to disrupt one thread is to unravel the whole. As if to punctuate the master's point, a solitary ant made its way across the stone, its determination evident in its steady progress. Arin, with a flick of his hand born from a deep-seated habit, sent the ant tumbling into the dust. A momentary triumph flickered across his face, quickly replaced by a shadow of doubt as he caught Laozu's disapproving gaze. "Consider the ant," Laozu said, stooping to witness the creature's plight. "Its journey is one of persistence, community, and strength. What lesson have you imparted with your action, Sparrow?" The apprentice's voice was a mere whisper, betraying a flicker of uncertainty. I have disrupted its path." "Not just its path," Laozu intoned, his gray eyes reflecting a depth of wisdom. "You have sown a seed of discord, and from such seeds great storms may grow. This ant, though small, is a fellow traveler in the cycle of life and death. To extinguish its flame is to invite darkness into your own spirit." Arin shifted uncomfortably, his soft-spoken words barely audible above the rustle of leaves. "I meant no harm, master. It was but a thoughtless act." The master monk straightened, his commanding presence a history to years of discipline. "Mindfulness is the lantern by which we navigate the world, Arin. Without it, we are blind to the beauty and fragility that surrounds us. Let this moment be a lesson. Respect for all life is the cornerstone upon which our monastery stands. Stray from this, and you stray from the path we walk together." With the grace of a dragon in flight, Laozu turned, leaving Arin to contemplate the weight of his words. The young apprentice watched the ant resume its journey, a newfound respect dawning within him. It was the beginning of a transformation, a recognition of the interconnectedness of all beings, and the first step toward his own redemption. Chapter 2: The Sparrow's Song. A golden shard of daylight pierced the morning mist, casting a celestial spotlight upon the monastery's tranquil gardens. Here, amid the stooped willows and the soft murmur of a meandering brook, Arin's world was about to unfold in a way he could never have foreseen. The crisp air carried a rush of wings, a sharp cry that shattered the dawn's calm. Arin, his senses honed by Master Laozu's teachings, spun toward the commotion. A sparrow, the very emblem of his own spirit animal, darted through the sky, pursued by the menacing shadow of a hawk. Arin's heart raced as the aerial dance of predator and prey unfurled before him. With a swift, unthinking motion, he reached out just as the sparrow plummeted toward the earth, its wings faltering. His hands clasped around the tiny, feathered body, shielding it from the hawk's deadly talons. The hawk, thwarted, circled above with a piercing scream of defiance before disappearing into the embrace of the forest. Arin, his breath coming in short gasps, looked down at the life cradled in his palms. The sparrow's chest heaved with shallow breaths, its eyes wide with shock and pain. Arin felt a tremor of something profound stir within him, a kinship with this fragile being whose life hung by a thread. He remembered Laozu's words, the wisdom that all life was sacred, and he felt the weight of responsibility settle upon his shoulders. He carried the sparrow to the shade of a cherry blossom tree, its petals a soft rain of pink around them. "Little one," he whispered, his voice soft-spoken, yet filled with an intensity that surprised him. "I will not let your song end here." The sparrow twitched in his hand, its struggle to survive etching a mirror of Arin's own vulnerability upon his soul. He fetched water from the brook, dripping it gently onto the sparrow's beak, and searched for wounds. A small injury beneath its wing spoke of the hawk's near success. Laozu approached, his stoic build casting a long shadow across the pair. "Sparrow," he said, his voice a commanding but concerned rumble, "what have you there?" Arin looked up, his brown eyes meeting the master's gray ones. "A sparrow, master. It was chased by a hawk, and I saved it." Laozu knelt beside Arin, observing the bird with a gaze that seemed to penetrate beyond the veil of the physical world. "And what do you intend for this tiny creature?" "I wish to heal it, to see it fly again," Arin answered, the connection to the bird cementing a newfound tenacity within him. The master nodded, a ghost of a smile gracing his seasoned features. "Then you shall learn from this experience. In caring for this sparrow, you may yet uncover the vastness of compassion that resides in your heart." Throughout the day, Arin attended to the sparrow, fashioning a nest from leaves and whispers of hope. As twilight painted the sky with strokes of lavender and gold, the sparrow's condition seemed to improve. It looked at Arin, its brown eyes holding a depth that words could not capture. Master Laozu watched from a distance, his own heart swelling with a silent pride. Arin, the once scornful apprentice, had begun to transcend his limitations, his actions weaving a new chapter in the tomes of Transcendence. The song of the sparrow, a melody of survival and grace, was also the song of Arin, a tune that hummed with the promise of redemption. Chapter 3. Veil of Illusion. In the heart of the monastery, where the stone walls held whispered secrets of ancient wisdom, Arin sat cross-legged, his body as immobile as the mountains that cradled the horizon. The garden around him breathed life, each leaf and petal a monument to the silent, pulsing vitality of nature. Yet for Arin, the world had shifted. The once solid ground of his beliefs now quaked with uncertainty. The sparrow he had saved had left an indelible mark upon his soul. Its small, delicate body had ceased to flutter, its song had faded into the silence of eternity. The tiny bird's passing was a key turning in the lock of Arin's mind, opening doors to questions he had never dared to ask. Master Laozu found him in the twilight, the sky a clutter of deepening blues and the first stars peeking through the veil of day. The old monk settled beside his apprentice with the grace of long-practiced movements, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Arin," Laozu spoke, his voice the deep rumble of the earth itself. "The world is but a reflection of our innermost thoughts. What troubles your spirit this evening?" Arin turned to his mentor, his brown eyes wide with the turmoil that raged within him. "Master, I am adrift in a sea of confusion. The sparrow's life, so brief, so fragile, has stirred a storm in my heart. What purpose do our lives serve if they are but a whisper against the expanse of time?" Laozu nodded, his gray eyes holding the calm of still waters. "The purpose is not always for us to know, but to seek. Our lives are threads in the grand conglomerate of existence. Each one contributes to the whole, even in ways unseen. But how can I accept the sparrow's death? How can I not question the fairness of life and death?" Arin's words tumbled forth like a river breaking its banks. The master monk's white hair glowed in the moonlight as he contemplated his apprentice's struggle. "To question is to learn, Arin. The veil of illusion clouds our eyes, but through seeking, we may come to understand the impermanence of all things. It is in this impermanence that we find the true beauty of life." Arin's gaze fell upon the garden where a multitude of creatures stirred. The rustling of leaves spoke of unseen lives, and the air itself seemed to hum with the energy of existence. Master, I feel as though I am awakening from a dream, Arin confessed, his voice barely a whisper. I see life in the stones beneath us, in the air we breathe. Yet I fear this vision, for it reminds me of my own mortality. Laozu's hand rested upon the young man's shoulder, a silent anchor in the swell of his existential tempest. Embrace this fear, for it is the beginning of wisdom. Let it teach you compassion, let it guide your actions. Remember, Arin, that in acknowledging death, we learn to truly live. As the night deepened, Arin sat with Laozu under the canopy of stars, the echoes of his internal conflict slowly softening to a murmur. The veil of illusion lifted, revealing to him the sacred interconnectedness of all life. It was a revelation both terrifying and sublime, a step further along the path of his redemption, a path that led not to answers, but to a deeper understanding of the questions that stirred his soul. Chapter 4: Whispers of the Wind. As dawn unfurled its rosy fingers over the monastery, Arin stood amidst the verdant gardens, his vow to respect all life a newly forged shield in his heart. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of blooming lotus flowers from the nearby pond. He inhaled deeply, the fragrance mingling with a sense of purpose that had begun to root within him. Laozu, the embodiment of wisdom, joined Arin in the early light, his white hair a halo in the sun's gentle embrace. Today, you walk a path of restitution, the master said, his voice a warm breeze against the coolness of the morning. Your vows are the first steps toward a horizon brimming with compassion. Arin nodded, his slender form a reed swaying with newfound resolve. I am ready, Master. My heart and my actions shall be as one, in harmony with the pulse of all living things. Their conversation was a river, flowing with the exchange of insights and the quiet understanding that passes between teacher and student. As Arin spoke of his commitment to mindfulness, a shadow passed over the sun and a distant rumbling reached their ears. A cloud approached, not of rain, but of locusts, their bodies a living storm that threatened to devour the monastery's crops. Arin's vow faced its first trial, the promise to respect life, now a roaring fire in the face of destruction. The crops, Arin murmured, his gaze fixed on the approaching swarm. We must protect them, but how can we do so without harming these creatures? Laozu placed a hand on Arin's shoulder, a mountain of calm amidst the rising tempest. Remember, Arin, that the wisdom of nonviolence is the most powerful weapon we possess. Look beyond the surface, and you may find a path that leads to peace for all. Arin raced to the edge of the fields, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts and possibilities. The locusts drew nearer, their collective hunger an audible whisper on the wind. Then, an idea sparked in the young man's mind, like a marker in the night. He gathered the monks, his voice carrying the urgency of the moment. We shall use the wind to our advantage. If we can create a current strong enough, we can steer the locusts away from our fields. The monks, united by Arin's conviction, fetched large fans and sheets of fabric. Together, they stood at the threshold of the fields, their bodies a bulwark against the impending swarm. With a chorus of chants and the vigor of their combined efforts, they began to fan the air, creating a gust that rose to meet the locusts. The insects, caught in the artificial gale, veered off course, their path bending away from the life-giving crops. Arin watched, his heart a drumbeat of hope, as the locusts disappeared into the horizon, the monastery's fields left untouched and green. As the last of the locusts vanished, the monks erupted in cheers, their relief a song that mingled with the whispers of the wind. Arin, his pledge intact, felt a profound connection to the earth and its inhabitants. Laozu approached, his gray eyes shimmering with pride. Today, you have embodied the essence of our teachings, Arin. Through ingenuity and respect for life, you have turned a crisis into a victory for all. The day waned, and peace settled over the monastery once more. Arin, his spirit soaring with the knowledge that he had honored his vows, understood that the true test of his redemption lay in each moment, each choice that honored the sacredness of life. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with strokes of crimson and gold, Arin knew that his journey had only just begun. For in the whispers of the wind, he had found the voice of compassion, a voice that would guide him through the many trials and triumphs that lay ahead. Chapter 5: Reflections in the Pond. The monastery's pond was a mirror to the heavens, a serene expanse that caught the dance of the sun and the moon in its embrace. Arin sat by its edge, the stillness of the water seeping into his being, inviting him into a deep contemplation. The gentle rustle of the willow trees whispered secrets of harmony and balance, a natural symphony for the young man's meditative state. Laozu approached, his stoic presence a familiar comfort. He observed Arin, the once restless youth, now embodying the poise of an ancient oak. Arin, he called softly, ensuring his presence was felt, but not jarring to the tranquility of the moment. Arin opened his eyes, their brown depths reflecting the wisdom he had accrued under Laozu's tutelage. "Yes, master?" he inquired, his voice the soft murmur of the pond's undercurrent. The master monk sat beside him, his own reflection joining Arin's in the water. The web of life connects us all, from the tiniest insect to the greatest mountain. "Do you feel this connection, Arin?" With a nod, Arin responded, "I do, master. The pond shows me that every life is a ripple that touches countless others. We are not alone, even in our most solitary moments." Their exchange was unhurried, a deep dive into the essence of existence. But as they conversed, a disturbance arose within the monastery walls, a scurry, a rustle, a sign of unwelcome visitors. Rodents, driven by hunger and instinct, had found their way into the storeroom, threatening the winter provisions. The news reached Arin and Laozu, carrying with it the weight of a decision. Arin's past instincts would have driven him to a swift and lethal solution, but his heart now beat to a different rhythm. "We must act, master," Arin stated, his newfound principles guiding his words, "but not with violence. There must be another way." Laozu's gaze was the gray of a storm that carried no rain, only the promise of life-giving waters. "Then let us find that way, Arin. Use your heart and your mind in equal measure." Together, they devised a plan. Arin led the effort, gathering the monks to carefully capture the rodents with gentle hands and quick wits. They worked through the night, each monk a steward of compassion. Once the creatures were safely contained, Arin himself carried them beyond the monastery's grounds, far enough to discourage their return, but close enough to ensure their survival. He released them into the wild with a soft blessing, a wish for their lives to continue unharmed. Upon his return, the first light of dawn was breaking, washing over the monastery with hues of hope and renewal. Arin joined Laozu once again by the pond, their reflections meeting as if in silent conversation. "You have done well, Arin," Laozu remarked, a note of pride resonating in his commanding tone. "Your actions today were a true reflection of your growth." Arin watched the sunrise, its light a golden path across the water's surface. "It was our teachings that guided me, master. I see now that every creature, no matter how small, has its place in the world. We must honor that." The pond, a witness to Arin's transformation, rippled with the morning breeze, carrying his endurance across its surface. In the reflections of the water, Arin saw not just his own face, but the faces of all the lives he had touched, a mosaic of existence, each piece integral to the whole. And as the day awakened around them, Arin knew that the journey ahead would be filled with such tests, each one an opportunity to live out the vows he had taken, to walk a path of peace and reverence for all life. Chapter 6. Blossom of Empathy. Within the monastery's ancient walls, where wisdom seemed to seep from the very stones themselves, Arin walked with a lightness that had eluded him in his earlier days. The gardens, vibrant with the hues of countless blossoms, mirrored the harmony that had taken root within his heart. It was here, among the fluttering leaves and the soft hum of bees, that Arin found himself imparting lessons of compassion to the monastery's youngest acolytes. On one such day, under the shade of a cherry tree heavy with the promise of spring, Arin was joined by a new apprentice, Jin, whose demeanor was a disquieting echo of Arin's former self. Jin's eyes held the same fiery spark of challenge that Arin once wielded like a blade. "Master Arin," Jin began, his voice tinged with a skepticism that was as sharp as the morning air. "These tales of kindness to every ant and sparrow seem like old monks' fables. How does such stance help us in a world that respects only strength?" Arin regarded Jin, his own eyes a well of calm that had been hard-earned through trials and reflections. "Strength, Jin, is more than the force of arms. It is found in the elasticity of the heart and the courage to show mercy where none is expected." Jin crossed his arms, unconvinced, leaning back against the gnarled trunk of the tree. "But if a creature is weak, does it not make sense that it should make way for the strong?" Is that not the rule of nature? Arin picked a fallen blossom from the ground, its petals still a vivid pink despite its detachment from the branch. Look at this flower, Jin. It is no longer upon the tree, yet it remains a thing of beauty. It plays its part in the cycle of life, feeding the soil as it fades. So too do the smallest creatures play roles that sustain us all. The conversation unfolded like the petals of the very blossoms around them, each word a layer revealed, each pause a space for understanding to grow. Arin spoke of interconnectedness, of the web that linked Jin to the smallest grain of sand and to the farthest star. Jin listened, the fortress of his disbelief showing signs of wear in the face of Arin's gentle discourse. And what of us, then? Are we to lay down our ambitions, to spread our resources thin and care for every creature that crosses our path? Arin smiled, a soft curve of his lips that held no judgment, only the shared knowledge of youth's fiery impatience. Ambition need not be a river that drowns all in its path. It can be a stream that nourishes, that carries us forward together. When we lift others, we rise ourselves. They continued this exchange as the sun traced its arc across the sky, the shadows of the cherry tree dancing upon the ground to the rhythm of their words. Jin's stance softened, his eyes reflecting a dawning awareness that perhaps strength was not as he had always imagined it. As the day waned and the sky donned its cloak of twilight, Jin found himself gazing at the garden with new eyes. The chorus of life that thrummed around him spoke of a unity he had never considered, a shared journey that embraced every living thing. Arin placed a hand upon Jin's shoulder, a simple gesture that held the weight of kinship. This is but the beginning, Jin. The path of understanding is endless, and each step reveals new horizons. Together, teacher and student watched the stars emerge, the night air a cool balm that soothed the heat of deep contemplation. And in the quiet that enveloped the monastery, a blossom of empathy unfurled within Jin's chest, nurtured by the wisdom of a mentor who saw the reflection of his past self in the eyes of another. Chapter 7. The Dragon's Shadow. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the monastery, the light filtering through the ancient pines like a benediction. Arin, his steps silent upon the dew-kissed grass, made his way to the heart of the forest that cradled the sanctuary in its emerald embrace. There, the sacred animal revered by all at the monastery, a grand dragon of the forest, whose scales shimmered with the wisdom of ages, roamed with a quiet majesty. But today, the peace was shattered by the sound of intruders, their voices harsh and laden with greed. Poachers had come, their eyes set upon the dragon, coveting the whispered magic that its very being promised. Arin's pulse quickened, the air thick with tension as he hid behind the thick trunk of an ancient tree, watching the interlopers set their traps with callous hands. His mind raced. How could he protect the revered creature without betraying his sacred vow of nonviolence? Laozu appeared beside him, as silent as the dawn, his presence a steady rock in the churning sea of Arin's thoughts. "These men seek to wound the heart of our world," Laozu murmured, his voice a low rumble of distant thunder. "We must act, yet hold true to our path." Arin nodded, his firmness hardening like the gnarled roots of the trees around them. "Master, I have an idea, but I need your guidance." Together, they crafted a plan as cunning as it was daring. Arin approached the poachers, his demeanor calm, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Friends, you tread on sacred ground. This dragon is under the protection of forces you would not wish to rouse." The poachers laughed, a cruel sound that echoed against the trees. "And what can a monk do to stop us?" Their leader sneered, his eyes a cold reflection of his heart. Arin met the man's gaze, unflinching. "It is not I you should fear, but the dragon itself. It is said that to harm such a creature is to invoke a curse upon oneself, a curse of misfortune that clings like shadows." The poachers exchanged uneasy glances, the seeds of doubt taking root. Arin pressed on, weaving a tale of past poachers who had met with mysterious and dire fates, their greed leading them only to ruin. His words were a welter of caution, each thread a warning that tugged at the superstitious threads within their souls. Laozu, watching from the shadows, added his own voice to the narrative, a deep chant that seemed to rise from the earth itself. The leaves trembled, and a wind whispered through the branches, as if the forest were speaking its own agreement with Arin's words. Fear crept into the poacher's eyes, and one by one, they began to retreat, their bravado crumbling under the weight of the unseen and unknown. But the leader, stubborn to the end, made a final lunge toward the dragon, his hand grasping for the mythical scales. In that moment, Laozu stepped forth, placing himself between the poacher and the sacred beast. There was a scuffle, a blur of movement, and then a cry of pain. Laozu stood firm, but the fabric of his robe was stained with the scarlet of injury. The poachers, now truly afraid, fled into the forest, leaving behind their traps and their avarice. Arin rushed to Laozu's side, his heart a tempest of concern. "Master, you are hurt." Laozu looked down at his wound, then back at Arin, his gray eyes softening. "It is the price we pay at times to stand for what is right. Do not fear, Arin. This is but a scratch on the canvas of my life." As they returned to the monastery, the dragon watched them go, its gaze ancient and knowing. It let out a low rumble, a sound that vibrated through the trees and the very soul of the land, a song of gratitude and a reminder of the delicate balance between all living things. That night, as Laozu's wound was tended, Arin sat by his bedside, the moon a silent sentinel outside the window. Together, they had faced the dragon's shadow, the darkness of human cruelty, and had emerged with their vows intact. It was an indication to the power of wisdom over might, of truth over fear. And as Laozu drifted into a healing slumber, Arin knew that their actions this day would be woven into the tomes of Transcendence, a story of courage, cunning, and the unbreakable bond between a master and his apprentice. Chapter 8. The Weight of Sorrow. In the stillness of the infirmary, a room where the air was thick with the scent of medicinal herbs and the quiet breaths of convalescence, Arin sat by Laozu's side. The master's chest rose and fell with a rhythm that spoke of life's insistence, despite the bandages that swathed his torso and the pallor that had settled upon his aged face. The monastery, usually a haven of serene sounds, echoed with an unspoken tension that resonated through its stone corridors. Arin, his hands folded in his lap, watched the rise and fall of Laozu's chest, the embodiment of the fragile thread that all life clung to. Laozu's eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes that shone not with pain, but with an undiminished spark of wisdom. "Arin," he breathed, the effort of speech painting a wince upon his features. Arin leaned forward, attentive. "Yes, master? The path of nonviolence. It is not without its burdens," Laozu spoke, each word a drop of truth falling into the still waters of Arin's tumultuous thoughts. To hold life sacred above all else is to bear the weight of sorrow for every harm that befalls those we protect. Arin's throat tightened, a knot of uncertainty that had been growing ever since the incident with the poachers. "Master, your teachings have been the compass of my life, but seeing you like this, I fear that in our quest to do no harm, we invite harm unto ourselves." Laozu reached out, his hand a gentle presence upon Arin's. "My injury is but the echo of a choice to stand for what we believe in. Pain and suffering are transient, Arin. They pass like shadows over the moon, but the light remains. But is it right to hold to our ideals when they lead us to this?" Arin gestured to the bandages, to the vulnerability etched into the lines of the room. The master's chuckle was a soft rumble, devoid of self-pity. "Life is a mosaic of light and shadow, my young friend. We must embrace both if we are to see the full picture. Do not let doubt cloud your heart. The right path is often strewn with thorns, yet it leads to a place of greater peace." Their conversation unfolded like the petals of the night-blooming flowers that grace the monastery's gardens, each revelation a bloom of understanding in the moon's tender light. Laozu imparted his acceptance of life's trials, his belief unshaken by the wounds he bore. Arin absorbed the words, the wisdom that seemed to emanate from Laozu like warmth from a fire. The doubts that had haunted him began to dissipate. The fear that his beliefs could bring harm transformed into the acknowledgement that every act of courage carried its own form of grace. "It is a heavy weight, master," Arin finally said, his voice steady like the stones of the monastery walls. "But I begin to see its purpose. Through our suffering, we learn the depth of our commitment, the value of the peace we seek to create." Laozu nodded, his eyes closing once more as sleep beckoned him back into its healing embrace. "You understand well, Arin. Carry this knowledge forward and let it be the light that guides you through the darkness." As the night deepened, Arin remained by Laozu's side, the master's steady breathing, a mantra of life's stamina. The weight of sorrow had settled upon Arin's shoulders, not as a burden, but as an exemplification to the strength of his convictions, a measure of the vastness of his empathy. And in the silent vigil of the infirmary, with the stars keeping watch beyond the window, Arin found a new certainty within himself. A certainty that the path of nonviolence was not the absence of struggle, but the presence of an enduring hope, a belief that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could rise, transcendent and true. Chapter 9. Frost upon the Leaves. A shroud of white had descended upon the monastery, the frost clinging to the leaves like a solemn promise of endurance. The usually abundant gardens lay dormant under a blanket of snow, their vitality paused by the chill grip of a winter that had overstayed its welcome. Within the walls, the monks felt the keen bite of a famine that threatened more than their physical well-being. It gnawed at the very fabric of their faith. Arin moved among his brothers with a quiet urgency, his breath a misty cloud in the frigid air. The storerooms echoed hollowly, a stark reminder of the scarcity that faced them. Master Laozu, still recovering from his injury, watched over his flock with a concern that creased his noble brow. As the monks gathered in the great hall, their faces etched with the signs of hunger, Arin faced a tumultuous sea of doubt. The nearby villagers had stores of food, and the temptation to take just enough to sustain the monastery was a whispering wind that beckoned with the promise of relief. Jin, the young apprentice who had grown much under Arin's guidance, approached, his voice low and tinged with the sharp edge of survival. "Arin, we cannot allow the monastery to fall to ruin. We must act, even if it means taking from those who have more than they need." Arin looked into Jin's eyes, seeing the reflection of his own past quandaries staring back at him. "To steal is to abandon our principles, Jin. We must have faith in the path we have chosen, even in the face of such trials. But what good are principles if we are not alive to uphold them?" Jin argued, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. The conversation was a dance of ideals and reality, with each monk voicing his fears and hopes. Arin listened, his heart a vessel filling with the weight of their collective concern. Finally, he raised his hands for silence. "Brothers," he began, his voice steady as the ancient oaks that lined the monastery's approach, "we stand upon a precipice, and the easy path beckons with a siren's call. But we must not be swayed. Our strength has always been drawn from our unity and our unwavering belief in the sanctity of all life." He turned to Laozu, seeking the silent approval of his mentor. Laozu nodded, a subtle gesture that held the power of unspoken words. Arin continued, "Instead of taking what is not ours, we will reach out with open hearts. We will pray and trust in the interconnectedness of all beings. Perhaps our plight will be seen, and aid will come." The monks exchanged uncertain glances, their faith a flickering flame in the drafty hall. Yet, as Arin led them in prayer, their voices rose in a chorus that seemed to touch the heavens themselves. A plea for mercy, for compassion, for a sign that their sacrifices were not in vain. Days passed, and the frost upon the leaves remained, a crystalline testament to the harshness of the season. But then, as if in answer to their collective call, a miracle unfolded. Villagers, having heard of the monastery's plight, arrived with carts laden with food, their generosity a river that washed away the cold shadow of despair. Arin's heart swelled with gratitude, not only for the sustenance, but for the affirmation of his beliefs. The monastery had stood firm in its values, and in doing so, had sparked a light of kindness in the hearts of others. As they shared the provisions, the great hall was filled with more than the aroma of fresh bread and hearty stew. It was filled with the warmth of a community united, of barriers broken by the simple acts of giving and receiving. And in that moment, Arin knew that their redemption was not just an internal journey, but one that rippled outward, touching lives and mending the fabric of a world too often torn by selfish desires. The frost upon the leaves would eventually melt, but the bonds forged in the heart of winter would endure, unbreakable and true. Chapter 10. The Gift of Grace. In the heart of the valley, where the monastery stood as an age-old sentinel, the first buds of spring whispered of rebirth and renewal. Arin, with a spirit buoyed by the villagers' unexpected generosity, walked among the awakening flowers, their colors a vibrant mosaic under the tender caress of the sun. Laozu, his injuries now a memory etched into the lines of his wise face, joined his apprentice in the garden. The air was alive with the hum of bees and the soft rustle of leaves, nature's own symphony playing a tune of continuous life. Arin, Laozu's voice broke the symphony, rich with the timbre of experience. The villagers' kindness is a tribute to the truth we have lived by. Their grace is a mirror reflecting the goodness we have extended to the world. Arin, his gaze tracing the intricate patterns of a butterfly's wings, felt a swell of gratitude mixed with an unexpected shadow of unworthiness. Master, their gift has saved us, but I find myself wrestling with pride. Have we truly earned such a blessing? Laozu considered the question, his gray eyes reflecting the depth of the sky above. Grace, Arin, is not a reward. It is a gift freely given. It comes from the heart, unbidden and without expectation. We accept it with humility, for it is in giving that we receive. Their exchange unfolded like the petals of a lotus, each word a step deeper into understanding. Arin listened, absorbing the essence of Laozu's teachings, the knowledge that true compassion was a circle, unbroken and ever-expanding. But Master, how do we repay such a gift? Arin's query was earnest, a seeker's need to balance the scales. Laozu placed a hand on his shoulder, his touch as light as the breeze. We repay it by living our values, by being a buoy of hope and kindness in a world that often forgets the beauty of simple acts. We repay it by spreading the seeds of compassion to every corner of the earth. The conversation was a bridge from heart to heart, and Arin felt a stirring within him, a call to a higher purpose. I vow, then, Arin declared, to dedicate my life to this cause. I will share the lessons of this monastery, the wisdom of nonviolence, and the respect for all life, far and wide. Laozu smiled, a soft curve that held the serenity of the ages. And so, the cycle continues, Arin. Your journey will inspire others, just as you have found inspiration. This is how we change the world, not through grand gestures, but through countless acts of grace. As the day drew to a close and the setting sun painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Arin stood firm in his conviction, his path illuminated by the gift of grace. The monastery, once on the brink of despair, now thrived with the promise of new beginnings. And it was in this moment of tranquility that Arin understood the true measure of his faith. It was not found in the accolades of success, but in the quiet assurance that every choice made from a place of love was a stone cast upon the waters of life, creating ripples that extended beyond the horizon into eternity. Chapter 11. The Unseen Bridge. In the golden hours of the morning, when the monastery bathed in the gentle embrace of the sun, Master Laozu, now a picture of health, walked with Arin through the courtyard. The stones beneath their feet were worn smooth by the passage of countless monks, each step a corroboration to the journey of the spirit undertaken within these sacred walls. Laozu, his white hair reflecting the light of dawn, broke the silence that hung between them like a delicate mist. Arin, he said, his voice resonant with the depth of his recovery, the path you have walked has brought you far. Your understanding has deepened like the roots of the ancient ginkgo that graces our temple. Arin, his hands clasped behind his back, regarded his master with a mixture of reverence and an inexplicable twinge of self-doubt. Master, your words are kind, but I am but a humble student of your teachings. The mistakes of my past still cast a long shadow over the man I strive to be. Laozu halted, turning to face Arin, his gray eyes steady and unwavering. The shadows of which you speak are the very substance of your growth, Arin. You have learned from them, and they have become the bridge that has carried you to this newfound wisdom. Their conversation flowed like the nearby stream, which meandered through the gardens, speaking of time and transformation. Arin listened intently as Laozu shared insights that seemed to echo the very heartbeat of the earth. Master, is it possible to ever truly cross that bridge? Arin's question carried the weight of his lingering uncertainties. Laozu gestured to the air before them, where nothing but the gentle breeze stirred. The bridge you seek is unseen, ever present beneath your feet. With each step, it forms, and with each step, it stretches onward. There is no final crossing, for life itself is the journey, and the journey is the destination. Arin pondered the words, feeling their truth resonate within him. The monastery, with its stone walls and flowering paths, was a microcosm of the wider world, a place where one could learn the art of living and the wisdom of letting go. Then I shall walk this unseen bridge with the knowledge that each day is a gift of learning, a chance to grow beyond yesterday's self, Arin spoke, his purposefulness firming like the ancient stones that lined their path. Laozu smiled, the lines of his face softening like the petals of the cherry blossoms that now began to fall, a shower of pink upon their shoulders. That, my dear Arin, is the essence of true wisdom. To embrace the journey, with all its twists and turns, is to live fully. They continued their walk, the monastery waking around them, the air filled with the sounds of morning chants and the scent of incense. Arin felt a sense of peace settle over him, a quiet acceptance of his place within the endless cycle of learning and growth. And as the day unfolded, with the sun tracing its arc across the sky, Arin knew that the unseen bridge would always be beneath his feet, guiding him forward, an eternal path wrought from the fabric of his every choice, every lesson, every moment of transcendent understanding. Chapter 12, Dawn of the Eternal Journey. The first rays of the sun crept over the horizon, casting a soft glow on the monastery's ancient walls. It was a new day, but for Arin, it marked the beginning of a profound chapter in his life. The gardens, once his place of learning, now served as the backdrop to his teachings. He moved gracefully among the rows of blooming lotuses, his presence a calm guidepost to the pupils that gathered around. Laozu stood a short distance away, observing the scene with quiet pride. His recovery was complete, and with it came the time to pass the mantle to Arin, who had grown in both spirit and wisdom. Arin's voice was clear and resonant as he addressed the varied group before him. Each of you has come here seeking knowledge, a path to peace within and without. Let the lessons of these grounds seep into your being, as the dew is welcomed by the thirsty earth. A woman from a faraway city, her eyes alight with the spark of curiosity, stepped forward. Teacher, how can we carry these teachings back to our lands, where the rush of life leaves little room for reflection? Arin offered a gentle smile, the kind that spoke of empathy born of experience. The rush of life is like the river, he said, ever flowing, sometimes turbulent. Find solace in the knowledge that beneath the surface there is a stillness. Take moments to connect with this peace, and you will carry the monastery's tranquility with you. A young boy, his face still round with the softness of youth, tugged at Arin's robe. Teacher, does respecting all life mean I cannot defend myself when harmed? Arin knelt to meet the boy's gaze, his eyes soft yet unwavering. To defend oneself is not a breach of respect for life. It is how we choose to defend ourselves that matters. With compassion and restraint, we honor the sacredness of our own existence and that of others. The questions continued, each a river stone contributing to the building of a bridge to understanding. Arin addressed each with patience and insight, weaving an aggregate of wisdom that embraced the complexities of life. As the assembly drew to a close, a traveler from the north approached Arin. His weathered face bore the marks of many winters, his eyes carrying the wisdom of one who had seen much. Teacher, your words inspire us to look within and mend our ways. But how do we address the suffering we see in the world? Arin's gaze turned to the horizon, where the sun now hung, a promise of enduring light. We mend the world as we mend a torn garment, with care, with persistence, and one stitch at a time. Let your actions be those stitches, binding the fabric of the world into an aggregate of compassion and respect. The traveler bowed, a gesture of deep respect, and joined the others as they dispersed, each carrying away a seed of change. Laozu approached Arin, the gravel crunching beneath his feet. You have embraced your role well, Arin. Your teachings flow like the mountain stream, clear and true. Arin turned to his master, his heart full. I am but a vessel for the wisdom you have bestowed upon me. The journey is eternal, and I am its humble traveler. Laozu placed a hand on Arin's shoulder, their shared history, a silent bond between them. The journey is indeed eternal, and each soul you touch is another step toward enlightenment, not just for them, but for you as well. As the day gave way to the cool embrace of evening, Arin stood alone, his thoughts reaching out to the infinite. He had found his place, not just within the monastery's walls, but in the hearts of those he would guide. The eternal journey had many paths, and as the stars began to twinkle in the velvet sky, Arin knew that his teachings would ripple through time, sowing the seeds for a world where every life was cherished, a world where respect and compassion were the cornerstones of all existence. And in that belief, he found the greatest wonder of all. This story concludes here. It's been an honor to have you with us for Tomes of Transcendence. StoryWave.ai has the unique gift of turning your prompts into engrossing tales. Please leave a like, share with your circle, and subscribe to our channel for a new story every day. March 2024. Until our paths cross again.